Okay, good evening. It's such a pleasure to be here today. Let me turn on this light. Listen, so before we get started, just want to put my little, I got to put my little caveat out there. I don't want nobody in my inbox talking about some Sheikah, your eyebrows is dark. I got my eyebrows done today, and it takes a couple of days before they start to peel. So it's like a tattoo. So imagine a tattoo. So it has to peel off, and so hopefully it won't take none of my hair with it. But I just thought I'd put that out there, so it won't be like, "Why her eyebrows so dark?" And she got blonde weaving. I just want to put that out there. But anyway, it is a pleasure to be here today. Good evening, and welcome to the Ronnie and Yasheka's dating discussion. And we are in day 10 of 12 days till Christmas. I cannot believe that we have 2 more days. I promise you, this Christmas snuck up on me. It did. It snuck up on me. And today we are entering our fourth block, our final block, which is
Oh,
"Hello, my name is." And with this one today, we will be talking about what's been going on for the last 20 months, dating during a pandemic, which has been something else. Okay, something else for people. And I think that eventually dating was going to kind of come to this. Of course, you're going to still have that traditional, meeting people, at a grocery store or what is it, a lawn and garden store or something like that. But I think that when you look at some of the dating profile, or excuse me, the dating apps that's born every year, that's one of the things that you see. Like I got a son, a 26-year-old son. He was in college, and he met his now girlfriend of like 4 years online, although they went to the same college. And I was like, well, whatever happened to going to like parties and hanging out at the whatever, you know what I mean, the library or whatever you do on the college campus? You mean to tell me you guys are at college and still met online? That is like ludicrous to me. But he said that it allowed him to cipher through things and people, and kind of get to the one who he felt like he didn't have to, I guess, work as hard at. I don't know, work as hard at. I guess that's all I can say, work as hard at. But so they've been together now for about 4 years, and it's just, yeah, it's weird to me. Before I get going, because you guys know once I get going, I can't stop. If you guys are joining us, make sure that you allow StreamYard access to you so that we can see your comment and be able to reply. I do have you here on my desktop, but then I also have you open on my portable device so I can see some of the comments and answer them because we don't have any VAs, y'all. It's just me, it's just Ronnie and myself. We don't have any VAs working on this project. So I have to kind of multitask, but be sure to share this video, like and subscribe it. And if you're checking us out on Facebook, make sure you hit us up over on YouTube as well at the Ronnie and Yasheka's Dating Discussion. And I'm Yasheka Foster, affectionately known as the Artist of Dating, and I empower successful women to date through self-discovery while finding the love of their life and having the tools to balance it all. And my handsome co-host.
good evening, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. I am Ronnie Walker, Master Coach of Exceptional of Dating, Relationships, and Sex. And no, I did not have my eyebrows done. But I don't want anyone in my box saying you should get them done either. So there's always some smart aleck who's going to do that. And listen, this is a very, I'm going to tell you, if I must pat us on the back, this has been an exceptional, series here. And I can't tell you how pleased I am to have been a part of this, you know, and share this information with Yashika, with everyone here. With that being said, you can find us, and I'm going to do this before and after. You can find us on datingdiscussions.com, Facebook, and Instagram, IG. And it's funny because you mentioned about your son, and when you think about Facebook, if I remember the story correctly, Facebook was created as a dating app for college kids. So, and I'm going, with all the parties that they have, again, so that, when I tell people that dating has evolved and just meeting people has evolved, this is one of those ways that even in the space of, even in the space of, excuse me, one second, something just seemed to went in my eye. Even in the space of dating and searching for someone, you people are using apps. Really, I've seen people do reviews and look for reviews of a restaurant that they could have just found out across the street. It's amazing. It really, really is amazing. So, with that being said, this is something unique. And even as Yashika and I were speaking about this, dating in a pandemic. So, before I go into my part, Yashika, is there anything that you want to add as we go into this subject? You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Look, so I did that once, and I'm sitting up here looking at myself, looking at my eyebrows, and
I'm
I
usually the one you're
realized that
telling.
I had, because I got my fan going over here, because y'all know I'm going, I get hot and stuff. I get hot, cold, hot, cold, so I got to have my fan on. Well, anyway, no, I think you handle it. Whatever I have to say will fit right into what you have to say. So yeah, you just keep on talking, and I'll get to me because, of course, I have some things to say. But for me, I will say,
I
okay,
am
you're back.
back.
You're back.
I
Okay.
am back. Okay. So let me kick this off. But this is something, and it's interesting because people, and based on where you are in your life, let me ask you this. There's a number of reactions. So I want to make sure I put this in the proper order because as a dating coach, there are those people who really feel that time is really, truly, truly on their side. And they're allowing fear to prevent them from doing. Now, are there some other other circumstances? Yeah, there are some people who still feel they need a little bit more tweaking to do. But again, you're never going to be full blown perfect, and then you're going to go out there and conquer the dating world and thinking the first date you go on, you're just going to knock out the park. Sparks are going to fly across, the dining room table over hors d'oeuvres, and then it's happily ever after in your 50-year marriage. Chances are you're going to go out there and as a much improved self, and it may not be the first, the second, or the third. However, with that being said, there are those who are ready. Ronnie, I'm ready. I've spoken to who I need to speak to. I thank you for your coaching. I'm in a much better place mentally and spiritually. All this, I'm gonna go out there and then boom, the whole damn country goes on lockdown. And then now see, there are those and see, here's the thing. We all know the pact did more than just dating, but it was just so profound in how, yes, we hear the sad story of businesses shutting down and people stop traveling and families. I get it. I was impacted by that in a very bad way as well. However, when it came to the dating, people truly thought it was the end of the world. Now, I can talk about it from the relationship side and how that impacted, but that's another show. People truly thought that it was the end, that it was some sort of sign that they wasn't meant to go out there. And they said, see, Ronnie, I told you, and they call me Mr. Ronnie. Mr. Ronnie, I told you that it wasn't meant to be. I'm meant to be single for the rest of my life. Here I go. I put in all this work. I invest all this time. I read the books, got your coaching, and then here it is. Some people blame Satan, some blame God, a whole bunch of things in terms of now I can't go out there and meet this person. Whereas some people said, you know what? Let's look at this another way. Or let's use the tools again, because it's not the resources. I keep telling people it's not just the resources that Yashika and I will provide for you. It will be your resourcefulness that will put you into a shift mentally or a paradigm shift to say, how can I still connect with this woman outside of just a phone?
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that's always been in front of their face in one of those ways has been the cell phone and video calling. Happy hour via Zoom or via, however it was. Because people got a visual, they got to see body language. Again, it's not the perfect scenario. But what they did was believed that there was still a chance that while things, because no one knew how long the situation was going to last, but they still made the best of it. And some people just sat on the sidelines and just moped and whatever. Again, but who, if I would have said a year before, Listen, you need to get out there just in case something happened. You hear things like you never promised something, you never know what's going to be, and people just think that nothing can stop. They got all the time in the world, and then boom,
Hmm.
people who procrastinated were on the sidelines. So
Listen,
all the dating apps wasn't helping anything, and
listen,
you could swipe left, swipe right. If
listen.
you couldn't go nowhere, you were scared to go somewhere, you were stuck.
Let me tell you, about 6 months in, I was going through my roller decks.
Okay, now we're there.
And I'm like, well, so can I trust that he ain't got COVID? I was like, what you doing?
See, I was going to go into that next
I
because
was like,
that was phase
you
two.
been testing that? You because not only do we got to test for the other stuff, but I'm like, well, did you get credentialed for it? You good? You
Yep. Yep.
it was like I didn't want to bring nobody new into the flow because it's like I don't know. In the very beginning, we didn't know what it was. It was like I
Hmm.
was like, where's this? Can I get this shit kissing somebody? Like it was like, well, maybe I trust him because I've kissed him before. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, granted, that had nothing to do with it, but in my mind, I was like, because I kind of like as if it was gonna make him any safer. You know what I mean? Because he went out to the world
Hmm.
like everybody else. But in my mind, I was like, about he shouldn't be contained.
When I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I have stories, but because I haven't gotten permission from these people, but it kind of goes like something like what Yashika sharing.
Listen, I don't hold anything back because I know I was not the only one. I'm
That's
telling you,
right.
I know I wasn't the only
That's
one.
right.
And
Exactly.
I'm telling you, I didn't want to bring, I mean, it was almost as if I looked at the pandemic from a relationship standpoint or from a sexual standpoint as if it was in the very beginning, as if it was, I kind of, I knew it wasn't, but for whatever reason, I wrapped it in my mind that it was almost like, catching, a kissing disease. You know what I mean? Like something that I can wear protection and be covered. Like, in other words, I really started to rationalize the idea or rationalize in my mind that I'm safe, they're safe. And only reason I was thinking that is because it had nothing to do with the pandemic. It had nothing to do with the virus. It was literally me not trusting anybody else because it was almost as if, well, if I meet somebody new and say we date online for a month or whatever, or whatever, and we meet in person, it's like, can I trust that you're gonna say you were where you say you were? Can I trust that you're gonna say to
There
me that
you
you were
go.
in the house like you said you were? Whereas
The
that the
T
people that
word.
I
Hmm.
knew, I felt a little bit more comfortable. I'm like, hey, you've been to work now. I've been in the house for 3 months. So it's like, okay, I can trust that he's telling me the truth. So I think it was more of the lines of that, like people who you trusted more so than anything else. You know what I mean? Like I can trust that he's being honest with me when he told me that he hasn't been out of town. You know what I mean? Or he didn't haven't been to a job and he's been working from home. I listen. I know I wasn't the only one. Look here. One thing I know about my brain is that I think way over there somewhere. But it's so comforting to know that I'm not the only one that thinks certain things because other people like I was thinking that too. Because I've heard people say it's like I was thinking that.
It was rough. It was
Yeah,
rough.
I mean,
My
it's getting no better neither, especially with
yes.
this new variant out there. It's not getting any better, and it has slowed down a lot of things. So now I'm at the point now where if I feel like I'm going to get into a relationship with someone or we're dating, it's like okay. I need to see your regular test, you know what I mean, to see when last time you was checked, and I need to see your recent COVID vaccination or COVID card or something. I need to see
Hmm.
something, and that's where we are, because that's where we are. I didn't get quarantined with anybody. I
Hmm.
wish I had have.
Oh, listen, my phone was blowing up on a regular. So if they wasn't asking about the kissing, they were definitely asking about the sex, and so here I'm in touch with doctors and specialists in this, and they couldn't give me any definitive answers in the beginning because I never want to say, look, I'm a doctor, I'm an expert. You don't see me use these type of words, but I want to be able to relay the information as it was going on, and all of so for those there were some people who said, listen, before this gets real deep, let me go find somebody to quarantine with. And then that also told them another story, like, okay, well, I think I have learned that this is not the one for me, and now they're stuck with this person.
Mhm.
So there are many stories, and yes, Yashika, you, trust me, you are not the only one thinking this way. So when I tell you my phone it was a hotline, you
Mhm.
know, and we're not even talking about those that were in relationships, established relationships,
Yeah.
or the married couples,
Mhm.
that I worked with and reached out to me. So it was real. It was real because not in anyone's lifetime did we think something like that. Now we're so used to seeing that happen in other countries,
Yeah.
so we're not, it's not that we wasn't familiar with it, but for it to happen here in the good old U.S. of A.,
Mhm.
we're
Yeah.
humans too, and
Absolutely.
so it was pretty intense when it comes to that, and people trying to engage with people that they
Yeah.
thought they could trust or what not trust, because then those people, as well as those ladies and gentlemen who thought the whole, well, I have no problem being by myself. I can be alone, and I'm okay, and I can self love. And then after 3, 4 months of that, they cabin fever kicks in, and
Listen.
they're willing to try anything. So again, hopefully by the end of this, as we're going through this, we can provide some tools in which you can use to cope through this. Because again, just as when we like to think that it's getting better, there are some places that are still having a challenge.
Mhm. Yeah. I think, and in terms of dating, of course, the traditional way, like I said, the being at the bars, or and I say bars, not just not I'm not talking about a sleazy bar. I'm talking about just being out on the town,
Hmm.
having
Hmm.
a social environment. Those things closed down, so the way that people were meeting in that way was not the same anymore. People were not out and about just lollygagging at stores, so the possibility of you meeting someone and getting to know someone, even if you saw them from across the room, and you may felt like, well, hey, who is that? Because you were single, you thought maybe that person's single because of the whole pandemic. You didn't want to talk to anyone when you
Hmm.
did that 1 week out the house. That one day you would go out the house once a week. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I know for me, it was like, let me get in and get out. And it was like those first 6 months were so stressful. And the last thing that I thought about was, and honestly, I never even thought about the fact that um, I'm not going to meet anyone. You know what I mean? Like literally. And now, granted, at nighttime there was differences or whatever. But as far as me meeting someone or dating someone, or who am I going to date and how long it's going to last, that wasn't my focus. Now my focus was the intimacy, yes, because we're human, we're adults, right? But it had nothing to do with meeting anybody in terms of who am I going to date and if I'm going to eventually get to the altar, whatever. That wasn't my thought, because I was just thinking like, I just need to make sure that I'm good. You know what I mean? I come out on the side of this because of course, the numbers. It's no one, unless no everyone has heard about what has happened since then. With the death
Hmm.
toll. So for me, a relationship was the furthest thing from my mind, but intimacy definitely was on the mind. You know what I mean? But in terms of dating, like I said, the social scenes have kind of stopped because they're not as they used to be, of course, and they've slowed down a lot. Even when things started to open back up, it still weren't the way they were before, because then now you're in there and you have a mask on, or the occupancy levels or rates are down, so it's not as many people there as it normally would be. And
Hmm.
then people are I don't know if people are just necessarily getting inside of groups, like big groups as they were before, and going to different spots, right? Because now it's like, okay, it's just me and one other person and we're going out, but we're not out here looking either, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so that changed a lot. And then of course, the online dating world went up now, because some of the new platforms were born, and then some of the old platforms, they started to implement the new things. And like you mentioned before, how Facebook started off initially as supposed to be a dating app or something, right? It wasn't until this time that Facebook really started to really introduce the dating app within the Facebook world.
That's right. That's right.
So they didn't even so they did it too, because they realized that they want to keep people on one platform, and so they knew that people were going elsewhere for that. So why not do it this way as well? Keep this on one platform. And so,
Hmm.
altogether, a lot of things has changed, definitely. But I think that what it allowed people to do is, because I mean, those were the bad things. But the part that I enjoyed that it did do was people that you probably wouldn't have really been on the phone with, or FaceTiming, or video chatting, anything like that, because we're in a fast paced world. You know what I mean? With technology and things like that. So because we are forced to be in the house, you're having more conversations on the phone, right? You're getting to know someone on a more deeper level because that's all you have. You don't really have the visits, or I'm going to come see you this weekend, or let's hang out, these 2 days or whatever, and go this place and go that way. So you're forced to be in the house, kind of go to work, come home, go to work, come home. If you were even back at work, and so people who were getting to know each other, or people who maybe known each other before, and they were able to rekindle the phone conversations, the online, dates and things like that, brought people closer.
Hmm.
And I don't think that the marriage or the divorce rate has risen during COVID. I personally don't. I know I see the statistics shows what they are, or whatever, but I think that I think people who I think it was twofold. You had people who were not used to being at home with their significant other, that felt like, you know what, this was good for us because we realized that we cannot be together like this all day, every day. So maybe we're not compatible. And then you had people who realized that, this is really my one. This is really my person. I've gotten to know this person on a much, much deeper level because it's this, that person and I. And so I think that depending on where the relationship was, I think that it either affected it negatively or positively. And I don't think too many people really stayed the same. I think it was either you did this with your relationship, or you did that, or you found a new relationship, or it crumbled. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I don't think that there were too many people say, well, we're the same way we were when this all struck in 2020. I don't think there's too many couples that can say that.
It's interesting in that, I'm still looking at the numbers, and again, in another show, we'll go over that when we're talking more about those that are in relationships. However, I want people to learn to adapt,
Hmm.
in this dating space. Because don't forget, another group of people that I spoke to as this really started getting full blown were those who were divorced.
Hmm.
And now they really had gotten themselves together mentally to go out into the dating world.
Hmm.
And that reality, so now for the first time of not being alone when they have a choice is one thing to have a choice when you choose to be alone. And there's another thing that now you're in an X situation, you're still, the divorce is still fresh, you're home looking at the paperwork and things of this nature. But I stress using technology to your advantage.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, I really emphasize that because, yes, I get it. Because again, you never know how long this was going to last. So
Hmm.
the phone conversations are great. At the same time, take the time. I remember I suggested a virtual dinner.
Hmm.
So, gentlemen, you ordered her a dish from wherever she ate. If it was, long distance or a short distance or whatever, you got what you got, and you sat down via Zoom, via however the platform it is, and you sat and you talk. Again, it's not the perfect situation, but again, if anything, and I said, gentlemen, listen, if anything, she will appreciate the effort.
Hmm.
She will appreciate the effort. And here's the other thing for those who are out there, dating, and you're looking at you're using dating apps. Here was another challenge because there was division a lot of ways. Because as the vaccine started rolling out, there were those who chose not to get the vaccine. So what if so much of you, you and her, or you and him had so much in common, things would be in line, but you have the vaccine and he or she didn't. Now how do we handle that? And see, this thing just as had gotten just as intense as if there was a political difference. I've seen couples end based on when it came to uh, presidential elections.
Hmm.
That can get very intense when we talk about policies or one's experience when we're talking about racism, abortion, uh, policing, things of this nature. Well, now we're talking about the science and vaccination and the way now add that on top to the politics.
Hmm.
You had another whole Molotov cocktail. I mean, it was intense. So now, how do you address that?
Yeah.
Are you going to
Yeah.
be okay with that? That even, let's just say, you could, the pandemic is not as severe as it was before. The
Hmm.
numbers are dropping, things of this nature. Or if it rolls, then you're saying, okay, well, listen, it hasn't gotten any better. Are you going to go get this vaccine?
Right.
And he or she is saying no. And then you have a decision to make whether this is someone that you want to trust. Because now, let's just say you're both young enough and you want to have children. Well, with children comes vaccinations, and who makes the decision? So it had gotten very tense, and it still is this way
Yeah.
in the dating space. So
Hmm.
these are things, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to be real clear on. So when you hear me and Yashika talk about the questions and learning about yourself, this is one of those things that we never thought we would have had to ask another individual in dating conversation, but you now should,
Yeah.
because it's not just about you, it's also about the people that you're in touch with
Yeah.
in terms of physical. So these are things to take into consideration as you move forward during this pandemic time.
Yeah. I guess I never really thought much about that aspect of it. Looking at it like if you're on two sides of the fence when it comes to your political views or your religious views.
Mm-hmm.
I guess because of, it definitely depends on your friend circle. For me, I'm retired military, so most of the people that I align myself with, or that I deal with outside of just being online, but I really deal
Mm-hmm.
with in real life. I think probably 95% of them are prior service in some way. And so we already have this thing that, we've got the anthrax vaccination, you know what I mean? And so when you think about when the anthrax vaccination first started occurring in the early 2000s, right after 9/11, it was a big controversy about, should the military get it? And so it was one of those things where we knew that we didn't have an option. It was either that or we got put out of the military. And so I think that the majority of us kind of saw the vaccination, the COVID-19 vaccination in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we've been guinea pigged so many other ways as soldiers. We've gotten more shots in life than anybody. Than people get over two lives. We've gotten shots, and so for us, it was not. It was almost like it wasn't even a second thought. Like I cannot tell you, like honestly, I don't know any of my friend circle who are prior service or retired military or whatever that did not get it. Like I can't even think of one who didn't get it, unless
Mm-hmm.
of course, not at this broadcast. But as far as people that I associate myself with, everyone, man and woman, that were in the military and served when I served, they got the vaccination.
Yeah.
So I never thought about it was an issue in the civilian world. Well,
Oh, very much so.
yeah.
Again, so you mentioned the military. I mean, again, even as I speak to men and women who the furthest thing from their mind is dating someone who's ex-military. Like, no, so all these preconceived notions that we have. So if they're pastor, prophet, prophetess, everyone has their story or their reason as to why they won't date him or her who is ever in a particular profession. There are those who, Ronnie, I stay away from cops. Anybody who serves, in the fleet, it's like no, 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 things of this nature. Well, this was just something that was just added on to that. If he or she is not vaccinated, I don't care how fine they are, I'm not going. So even if things, whatever the case may be, this is just where their mindset is. Or those who said, listen, I'm anti this, and the government would, whatever this, his reasoning or her reason behind it, I'm not going to date someone who is whatever. So again, it's interesting to see how things in the course of a year,
Hmm.
two, things will
Yeah.
change, and now adds another layer
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
dating. And
It
so when I
does.
speak of this, and again, this is not something that I've asked. I mean, these are things that when people come to me for coaching, the consultation, these are the things that they bring up.
Hmm.
And as it tend to get worse, I mean, there are those who just still, for those who chose not to get the vaccine, they dug their heels in, you know. And I don't know why she's going to hold this against me, because this is just how I feel. She wants to be respected for her choices. So again, however, this is also again a time to take on your virtual date. The
Hmm.
question should still be the same as if you're sitting across the table from each other. You know, then this is what it is. So I always strongly, I said, look, and then ask that question. If you're going to brave,
Hmm.
the opportunity to sit across for one of the few places that are open, or if you're going to go sit in the park outside and you're going to wear your mask, or and he or she's not going to wear, again, take that into consideration that if you're still going to meet, get that part of the conversation out of the way so that you don't end up, in a place where you can respectfully disagree to agree to disagree, as opposed to coming there and you find out he or she's not wearing a mask and you're like saying, why are you not, and
Right.
then it ends up being ugly because some people are more passionate than others when it comes to their stance on this time in the pandemic. And now
Yeah.
that we're back into this, people, are getting concerned again as they see the numbers rise. But I just don't want people to live in a space of fear.
Yeah.
He or she is still out there, but again, maybe just a little bit more due diligence in your vetting as we go forward in terms of what one believes or doesn't believe, in
Hmm.
terms of what, the government is doing in terms of what they feel is making it safe as we go out
Yeah.
into the world.
And I'm going to add some, I'm going to put my own opinion on here. I think that in terms of how all this has affected the dating world, now that we are in this fourth block, hello, my name is, and we're talking about dating during a pandemic. It's just my opinion that everyone who is single, who is looking to date or find their person, I think they should develop a dating profile. Like you don't have to hit up all the sites. You don't have to hit up all of them. Maybe pick one or start with a free one. You know what I mean? And of course, as we go through this block, we will start to talk about dating profiles and things like that and what to put on it and things to
Yes.
say when you start to chit chat with someone doing a dating profile when you do get a dating profile. But moving forward over these next 3 days, I really challenge someone who is single and looking to find their person to develop a or dating profile and start with a free one. Personally, I never when I started because I initially created a dating profile probably about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, when I retired here in this area of Virginia, and I didn't know anyone outside of the military, and so it was a way for me to just because I literally didn't know any civilian men, and I didn't know any civilian men, and most of my friends, they pass through a town. We don't really stay too long, and so for me to stay here in this area, it was like okay, and not only did I create dating profiles, but I also created like meetups. I became part of meetup teams, because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to go out and interact. I became part of networking events and things like that, just so that I could meet people, not just in my professional life, but in my personal life as well. And so I knew that social media or online stuff was the way to meet, to start networking. I also knew that I had to apply that to my personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that, and I started off with the paid ones, and I still, I don't think I've ever paid for one, but if I did, it wasn't something I did for a lifetime. It was probably a month just to see what it was out there, whatever. But of course, since then I've evolved. But for the most part, I think that people should really like get a dating profile and create um, a free account at least. And I think that when we don't do that, it's like I think it's more of I think when people don't develop a dating profile or they feel like, well, no, I'm not going to do that online. I think they get wrapped up in what they hear the media say. Well, what if I meet this person? They're not who they say they were. But that's true in real life. Period. You know what I mean? You
Absolutely.
can go out with, you can meet somebody at the store and
Absolutely.
then talk on the phone and then decide to meet up, later on. And yeah, they didn't catfish you because you met them in person, but they probably didn't show you who they truly are. The imposter may have met you in the store, and then once you go out to dinner with them and have a more intimate setting with them, now the real person comes out. You see what I'm saying? So it may
Mm-hmm.
not just be from this perspective that a person is, can fool you. They can fool you from just being a different person, period. And so I think that's what a lot of people were wrapped into and why they could not do it. And then the other part was just them feeling like, well, that because people understand that putting yourself out there, you become vulnerable. Like you're putting yourself out there to say, hey, almost like we were talking the other day, like with the whole holding up the sign,
Yes.
like, hey, I'm single,
I'm,
and but that's where we are these days. I
mhm.
mean, think about it. We trust people. Like I pay my bills online, right? Um, long are the days of me going somewhere and and writing out a check. Like half the time, I can't even find checks if I need to do something where they say I need a check. You know what I mean? I have to dig through my stuff. Like, what did I put those books of checks? You know. So if I trust the banks to pay all my stuff online, I book airlines, I order food, I doggone order, stuff for the house, for the kids, whatever. If I trust them to handle my money, and because I'm doing everything from the atmosphere more or less, from orbit or whatever, then I feel like it's the same thing. I'm putting my money out there because it could easily be hacked and taken from me. It happens to people all the time where they personal
That's right.
IDs get taken. So in my opinion, if you can trust people with your life, what ultimately can be your livelihood, then why not trust, online with that vulnerability? Because if someone goes into your account and takes all your money, if your money is in one account, or whatever, or the majority of your money is in one account, and they take it, it may cause some disruptions a couple of days in your household until the banks can get that stuff squared away.
Right. That's right.
So you're trusting the system. So this is one of those things where you can trust that, you can do it. And I think one of the beautiful things about online is that, just like my son said, it really allows him to just read a little bit about a person without asking questions, and just like saying, okay, well, I know that I don't, this person's not my type, not my type, not my type. And so you're able to do more looking at a profile as opposed to anything else. So and I'm not going to get into the profiles today, but I just wanted to kind of touch about the whole dating during the pandemic, because literally that's where we're at now. If you're
Right.
lucky enough to find somebody at the store, or a Home Depot and Lowe's, because that's where everybody hang out at since the pandemic. It's the Home Depot and Lowe's, because everybody is doing DIYs at the house. You know what I mean? So everybody hangs
That
out.
is
Because I
true.
say I didn't
Yes.
get so many DIYs around this house since we've been in the pandemic, and I spent a lot of money at Home Depot. So that's where they're hanging out at. You know what I mean?
Yes.
in the
Yes.
Costco's and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're trying to buy in bulk in case we go through another, shortage of water or toilet paper. They've already stocked up. You know what I mean? So,
Yes. Yes.
so they're hanging out at those stores. Absolutely, absolutely. So
Wow.
yeah, but it's a change, it's a challenge, and this moving forward, I think it's just the way that we have to look at this space altogether, because there are still people who will say, you know what, I'm still not going to get back out there to going to the restaurants as much as I used to, or going hanging out at my hangout spot as much as I used to, or whatever. So I think that this is a way to help us move forward and evolve, in terms of relationships and dating. And I think that a lot of us was kind of hesitant, but I think the pandemic just kind of pushed us forward. And I've heard some good things about that. I've heard people who have met only during the pandemic and have gotten into relationships because they set up a dating profile, and now they're dating. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
so I think it's amazing.
It is. Even as I mentioned the virtual dating, that's that very next night.
Hmm.
Five people who are tuning in end up setting up a virtual date. They thought it was a little corny and dramatic, and I says, listen, be corny and dramatic. I says, I mean, what else are you doing? You gotta be hungry, you gotta eat. You know, you could be watching Netflix, or you can do that together. There's some people who watch Netflix together. There's this movie. So again, even as you mentioned the meetups,
Hmm.
again, it's the resourcefulness that you're using, ladies and gentlemen.
Hmm.
And to those of you that are spending the Christmas or this season as a single person, I am going to ask that you do not give up hope.
Right.
Don't give up hope. Still stay in a positive mind. You can never learn too much more about yourself, and it could be just the extra few days that you need to address some things.
Hmm.
Read a book. Again,
Yeah.
you can sit here and watch all the movies you want, but again, take that time, and not just for the sake of just the whole self-love movement, but
Yeah.
just in terms of maybe you want to rehearse the questions you're going to ask.
Yeah.
Write them down. Now that you've heard these few days of the blocks of Yashika and I,
Hmm.
write down some of the notes. Replay that, because I can assure you there's some things that you didn't think of that you can use. Ladies, should if someone reach out to you, fellas, Yashika has provided more than enough for us that as men sometimes we think we know it all, that we've learned some things that we says, okay, you never thought about this.
Hmm.
So now let me approach it this way
Right.
because I wasn't successful. So again, there's more than enough. So take this time and not mope and not be upset and pissed off, but take this time to further expand, you know, your knowledge, and learning how to pivot during this pandemic.
And not only that, but I think that and I've been known to say it many a times. I don't think it was the whole pandemic, but definitely earlier this year, where I think that being in the home and not having as many distractions helped me even learn some things about myself, and say, okay, you know, what has changed when it comes to this part of my life, this part of my life. And when I retired from the military 5 years ago, I never really had that moment to just sit with, you know, all my years of stuff. You know what I mean? Like just sit with it. You know how you may go to therapy because you think you got this problem, or you may go, do this because you think you got that problem, but then you realize that, or I won't even say problem, I say this obstacle or this thing that you need to work through. But then you realize that during that time, there's more things, because now you're not looking at your clock like, I'm gonna run in here and see my doctor right quick. I'm gonna run in here and see my therapist real quick, and I'm gonna go about my business because I know it's an hour, but she charges about an hour. So I'm not gonna keep her too much of her time. So you don't really get deep into it. But when you have more of things that you're thinking about, because you don't have the distractions in life, when you don't see that therapist or that counselor or that whatever, you're really able to bring some authentic stuff to the table, because you've had moments to really think about even deeper things, right? Because that's the thing, is just getting more familiar with yourself and getting deeper in who you are. And so I think that in terms of dating, that self discovery really helps people like in just in terms of dating, because it's things about themselves that they realize that they like, or that they don't like, or that they want to change, or that they want to do differently, right? And I think that once you see that, and you had that moment to think of, we've had this nearly 2 years to really slow it down a little bit, because life is fast paced prior to COVID, but we've slowed it down. I think that people are really emerging out as newly found people, because they're realizing some things about themselves that were a little deeper than they knew, and I think when it comes terms for dating or finding that person, I just think that it allows them to open up to more opportunities, because they have done more, more healing, or more, self-awareness, or just self-discovery. So yeah, you on mute.
I was just saying, I agree. Very,
Yeah,
very well said, Yashika. Very well said.
absolutely. Well, okay, as we wrap up, or as we, like I said, wrap up the 12 days of Christmas, this is our fourth block, and tomorrow, day two of fourth block will be Hello, My Name Is, but we're going to get into those darn dating profiles, okay? Oh my goodness, them dating profiles, and I'm
Ooh.
make sure that in the case you have not in the past, if you come on tomorrow to join us, before you do that, please go to YouTube and watch our dating profile matters video. Okay, so it's one that Ronnie and I did together, and Ronnie and Yashika's dating discussion on YouTube, but also one that I did for speaking as a woman to the men, and the art of dating on YouTube, because I really think people need to hear that. And then when they come to the dating profile
Mm-hmm.
live tomorrow, they can bring that knowledge with them, so they can see what we're talking about. Because I think I'm just going to put up a couple of examples of things to not do. Of course, I'm not going to have anybody's face, name, or anything like that. But just some things not to do. Something, and hopefully, everyone hasn't went through and watched the video just yet, worldwide, because I've seen some profiles, and it was a time where I was snapping pictures of them because I wanted to keep them as reference points for things like this. But then I was like, oh, and so I needed the space on my phone, so I deleted them. So now I need to go back and find some more,
Yeah.
because I was like, this can't be real. This just can't be real. The stuff that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so this has been good, Ronnie. I know that yeah, you got some things you need to take care of, and yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So you need your rest and all that good
Yes.
stuff. So
Yes. Yeah, the dating profile is going to be just. I forgot where I was yesterday in a line, and we're doing the mask on the 6 feet, and these two women were looking. They were in their dating apps, and just out of nowhere, they're looking around, and they see behind me. Here I am, standing around in my damn business, and they said, "Sir, can have a moment of your time?" I said, "What is it?" how do you interpret this? And again, it was this guy, again, good looking, but when it comes to what he was looking, it was a. I'll save it for tomorrow. It was a total. This brother,
Wow.
when I tell you, and I'm looking at the ladies, and very well put together, very nicely dressed. And again, now again, and as men, we're visual, so I'm going, okay, I can see this guy with this girl and the other one, this guy with this girl. Look like they would make. If in fact he was what he said he is.
Hmm.
But what he was describing, it was anyhow. I'll save that for tomorrow. But it flashed back to some of the things that Yashika and I had discussed. I'm going, brothers, 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 brothers. Yeah. So I think this is a very pivotal time that as we're going into the new year, if you want to increase your chances, you need to listen. You need to tune in tomorrow for this part. I think this is going to be good.
Yeah, and sometimes I look at profiles just to have a good laugh, like I do.
See
I
that, and
do.
that's what you don't want,
Like,
gentlemen. That's what you don't want.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? But
Right.
anyway, Ronnie, this has been great. And so
Yes.
we will come together tomorrow to wrap up
Yes.
block 4. And yeah, tomorrow's Christmas Eve. So for all of you who are out there like me who have not finished up all your Christmas shopping, um, I don't know what to tell y'all because y'all know some of these phone lines are backed up now, and
Mm-hmm.
Amazon they ain't really 24 hours right now.
Right.
So I don't know what to tell y'all because I was at the stores yesterday. I was so late with it. But and some people I'm just gonna have to get them after Christmas. I'm just gonna have to let them know, give them a rain check. Your Christmas will not be here on Christmas, but here's the
Mm-hmm.
order form. It'll be here sometime after the new year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
This is where we are. This is where
okay.
we are.
All right. Well, this has
Yes,
been
Sheikah.
nice. And don't forget, you guys, if you are stopping in live, send us a hello. Let us know that you were here. And if you are catching the replay, be sure to hashtag replay. And also, again, you can catch us over on YouTube with the same name, Ronnie Yashika's Dating Discussions. And you guys have an amazing night. Ronnie, I'll talk to you later.
All right, take care, Sheikah. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Good night.